As the world watches the intricate ballet of diplomacy unfold, one question looms larger than the rest. Is Donald Trump dancing to Vladimir Putin's tune? The answer may be hidden in the shadows of silence and the subtle shift of power. Join us as we peel back the layers of this geopolitical enigma. I am Ibrahim Umarwasi. This is Connecting the Dots. Let us be clear from the onset. Fear is rarely explicit in geopolitics. Great powers do not say we are afraid. They show it through hesitation, double standards, or selective aggression.
Sort of like a hot guy. I was hot as a pistol. I think I was hotter than I am now when I became president, okay? I don't know. I said to somebody, was I hotter before or hotter now? I don't know. Who the hell knows? Who the hell knows? Who the hell cares, right?
And when it comes to Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin, the record reveals a complex dance, not of friendship, clearly not of fear, but of transactional respect cloaked in nationalist bravado. So was Trump afraid of Putin? Not in a personal sense, but in a political chess, Trump treated Putin with a caution he rarely afforded others. Let us break this down. Donald Trump was not shy about using America's economic might as a weapon. But strangely, his targets were not Russia. They were America's traditional allies. He slapped tariff on German steel. He bullied France over digital taxes, threatened to pull troops from NATO countries that didn't pay their fair share. And most consequentially, he punished European countries by increasing tariff on goods exported to the United States. With regards to the war in Ukraine, Donald Trump has consistently signaled a deep, if unspoken, admiration for Vladimir Putin, an artful dance of praise without condemnation. He has repeatedly refused to publicly rebuke the Russian leader, even as the world witnessed acts that many describe as aggression and war crimes.
On Russia, Mr. President, do you believe the Russians are being disrespectful when they say that your criticisms of Putin are simply an emotional response? And do you still believe that Putin actually wants to end the war?
I can't tell you that, but I'll let you know in about 2 weeks. Within 2 weeks, we're going to find out very soon. We're going to find out whether or not he's tapping us along or not. And if he is, we'll respond a little bit differently, but it'll take about a week and a half, 2 weeks. We have Mr. Witkoff is here, who's doing a phenomenal job, is dealing with them very strongly right now. They seem to want to do something, but until the document is signed, I can't tell you. Nobody can. I can say this. I can say this, that I'm very disappointed at what happened a couple of nights now where people were killed in the middle of what you would call a negotiation. I'm very disappointed by that. Very, very disappointed. Yeah, please.
More recently, Donald Trump toned his rhetoric towards Ukrainian's President Vladimir Zelensky, dismissing him and mocking his reliance on Western support.
President Zelensky served out his offer to purchase more Patriot missile batteries.
Oh, I don't know. He's always looking to purchase missiles. You know, he's against. Listen, when you start a war, you got to know that you can win the war, right? You don't start a war against somebody that's 20 times your size, and then hope that people give you some missiles.
That move wasn't just a gap. It was a chilling message to America's European allies. Under Trump, loyalty is conditional, and even the victims of invasion are not guaranteed sympathy. Now ask yourself, if Trump was truly anti-Russia, why pressure Germany instead of crippling Russia's economy directly? Because Trump's strategy was not about deterring Russia. It was about asserting dominance over Europe. He didn't fear Putin, but he saw Europe's alliance on Russian energy as a business opportunity. for American LNG exports and a geopolitical chance to break European spines of independence. In short, Trump was less afraid of Putin and more eager to outcompete him without starting a new Cold War. Under Trump, the US did impose sanctions on Russia, but look deeper. Many of those sanctions were mandated by Congress, not initiated by the White House. Trump resisted enforcing them and even fired officials who tried to push harder. At the same time, he praised Putin publicly, calling him a strong leader and saying we should get along.
Yesterday, reporters asked me if I thought President Putin was smart. I said, of course he's smart, to which I was greeted with, oh, that's such a terrible thing to say. I'd like to tell the truth. Yes, he's smart. The NATO nations, and indeed the world, as he looks over what's happening strategically with no repercussions or threats whatsoever, they're not so smart. They're looking the opposite of smart. If you take over Ukraine, we're going to sanction you, they say. Sanction? Well, that's a pretty weak statement. Putin is saying, oh, they're going to sanction me. They sanctioned me for the last 25 years. You mean I can take over a whole country and they're going to sanction me? You mean they're not going to blow us to pieces, at least psychologically? The problem is not that Putin is smart, which of course he's smart, but the real problem is that our leaders are dumb. Dumb. So dumb. And they so far allowed him to get away with this travesty and assault on humanity. That's what it is. This is an assault on humanity. So sad.
That duality, punish in public and also praise in public, sent mixed signal to Moscow and the world. It wasn't fear. It was transactional diplomacy, the art of the deal. Putin wasn't an enemy to destroy, according to Trump. He was a fellow authoritarian negotiator to be respected, flattered, and perhaps emulated. But why does Trump get along with so-called dictators? Sometimes the pattern is not just Putin alone. And this is a question that has puzzled analysts, angered critics, and fascinated the public for years. Why does Trump seem to have a soft spot for leaders widely regarded as authoritarian strongmen? Think of names like Kim Jong-un of North Korea, Vladimir Putin of Russia, and President Xi Jinping of China. These are not mere diplomatic acquaintances. Trump didn't just meet them. He praised them, visited them, and oftentimes defended them in public. In fact, Trump remains the first and only US president to have set foot in North Korea, shaking hands with Kim Jong-un at the DMZ, a moment that left global observers stunned. Now pause for a moment. This wasn't during a thaw in tensions. North Korea was still testing missiles. Yes, of course, the US and China were neck deep in a trade war. And yet, Trump tweeted this about President Xi on his Truth social platform. I like Xi Jinping of China. Always have and always will, but he is always tough and extremely hard to make a deal with. This came just days after accusing China of breaking their latest trade agreement. Still, the tone was not one of outrage, but of reluctant admiration. So what's going on here? Is this simply Trump being unpredictable, or is there a deeper pattern? Let's find the pattern and connect the dots. But first thing first, let's go back to our initial question. Is Trump afraid of Putin? The answer is a simple no. To ask if Trump feared Putin is to ask the wrong question. The better question is, Did Trump see Putin's power as a threat or as a mirror? Because in many ways, Trump admired Putin's model: nationalist, unapologetic, unchecked by liberal norms. He did not fear Putin, but he respected his strengths, envied his control, and in some moments, enabled his expansionism by weakening NATO unity and holding back aid from Russia's main adversary, Ukraine. So yes, Trump waged war, but it was economic and not against Russia. It was a war on European independence, transatlantic unity, and liberal diplomacy. And in that war, Putin was not the enemy. He was the unspoken beneficiary. Trump's approach to international relations is not built on ideology or tradition. It's built on personality, especially dominance, strength, and control. He respects leaders who project absolute authority, who don't apologize, who don't negotiate from weakness. To Trump, leadership is not about cooperation. It is about command. He once said of Kim Jong-un, he speaks and his people sit up at attention. I want my people to do the same. That wasn't a joke. That was a worldview. To Trump, Putin, Xi, and Kim aren't dictators. In the pejorative sense, they are negotiators, chess players, power brokers. Trump sees in them what he wanted to be, unbothered by opposition, unbound by bureaucracy, and unafraid to flex national muscle. This administration has real-world consequences. First thing first, when Trump sided with Putin over US intelligence agencies at Helsinki, it wasn't just controversial. It signaled to the world that authoritarian strength could outshine democratic consensus. When he froze aid to Ukraine while pressuring Zelensky, it shows that he preferred transactional leverage over traditional alliances. And when he repeatedly praises President Xi, even as the US accused China of genocide against the Uyghur Muslim, it blurs the line between respect and complicity. So yes, there is a pattern. Trump doesn't fear authoritarian leaders, he admires them. He respects their discipline, envies their control, and oftentimes seeks to mirror their image. To him, diplomacy is not a global responsibility. It is a personal showdown, a boardroom negotiation with nuclear stakes. The world must understand this. Trump's admiration of leaders like Putin, Xi, and Kim is not about foreign policy alignment. It is about psychological alignments. He sees power where others see oppression. He sees control where others see fear. He sees respect where others see intimidation. Whether one agrees or disagrees with Trump, one cannot ignore the truths. His foreign policies was never about right versus wrong. It was always about strength versus weakness. And in that mirror of global strong men, he saw himself. In the end, Trump's rapport with authoritarian leaders isn't accidental. It is ideological. He doesn't merely engage with them for diplomacy's sake. He admires their grip on power, their control of narrative, their immunity to dissent. Where others see dictatorship, Trump sees decisiveness. Where others see repression, he sees results. And therein lies the danger. When admiration overshadows accountability, the line between respect and endorsement begins to blur. Trump's legacy in global politics may not be defined by war or peace, but by the unsettling precedents of power admiring power, without restraint, without apology, and without reflection. With that, we come to the end of today's episode of Connecting the Dots. I remain your brother, Ibrahim Umar Wase. This is the Voice of New Africa. Let the dot begin to connect. Until next time.